Welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making chicken fried cube steak with milk gravy and fresh green beans. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make the green beans part of this, because we are literally making three things in this video. We're going to make our fresh green beans, we're going to move on and make our chicken fried cube steak, and then after that we're going to make a milk gravy to put over the cube steak. And all in all, put this together, you have a amazing meal. You really probably only need to add some kind of a bread with it or a biscuit or something like that to actually make this everything you need to eat for dinner, lunch, whatever you want to cook this for. So, and as you can see with mine here, I'm going to add some garlic to the green beans just to flavor them up a little bit, and I'm going to cook them, the first part, in some chicken broth, so that way that's going to give even more flavor to it. So everything you see here is what you need to make the green beans. There's really not a lot. There's just a little bit of olive oil, there's some butter, salt and pepper, garlic, green beans, broth. You're good to go. So we're going to go ahead and snap off the ends of our green beans. If there's like a stem, get rid of it. If there is like a dark piece that from the end of it where it's been in the packaging turned brown, snap that off too. You don't need to snap these down small unless you want to. I'm going for the longer bit of the green bean here, where I'm not trying to have little tiny pieces. So it's just one of those things where if you want them smaller, snap them smaller. It's no big deal. But we're going to work our way through this and get all the end pieces off at least, and make sure that there are no dark places on the green beans, because sometimes they have like black spots or whatever. You want to make sure you get that off. And once we get these all into our pot, then we're going to move on to the next step of adding our chicken broth. And we are going to add enough in here to cover the green beans. It doesn't have to be much above that, because we just want to cook them in it. And they're going to cook for about 4 minutes to 5 minutes. And they're going to turn kind of a brightish green once they're done. But we want to get them to that point. Now, beside this, I have a half a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. I'm only going to use half of this right now, and I'm going to save the rest for later when these are being sauteed. So just put some of it in now. And then after that, we're going to transfer this over onto our stove and boil them. And like I said, 4 to 5 minutes. And once they're done with that, we're going to take them to the sink, pour out this hot liquid, and we're going to add cold water just to stop the process at that point. And then we're going to bring them to our skillet after that's done. So it's just going to be like one of those processes. Dump out the hot, bring in the cold, stop them, then bring them over to your skillet. And that way we're going to get ready to saute these. And this is where the garlic and stuff is going to come in. So we're going to have about like 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm using real butter in this. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I'm going to bring this temperature up to about a medium high. And that way I'm going to get this butter melted long before the green beans get into it. And once we're ready for the green beans, we're just going to bring them in and put them right in on top of this butter and the oil. So that way we can actually move them around a bit in there and get them coated before anything else is added to this. So bring in the green beans and make sure that you move them around quite a lot, because as you can see, there's a lot of the butter in the pan here to coat these with, especially with the little bit of oil you put in there. It's going to stick all over the outside, but that's going to help the garlic and the salt and pepper to stick to them when we're to that point. So once these are getting in there and coated, we're going to bring in our garlic. We're using about like a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half of minced garlic. If you don't like garlic a whole lot, you can dial that back a little bit. And then once we get this all stirred up and all mixed through, we're going to bring in the rest of that salt and pepper that we had, because we're going to take that and just sprinkle over top of this and mix it in just as we did with the garlic. And we're going to cook it for probably, I don't know, about a minute to 2. And then we're going to remove this from the heat, put a lid on it, and put it to the side and wait until it's ready to use with the meal that we're making here. So just go ahead and mix it up. Make sure all those seasonings are mixed through. And as you can see, they're simmering in the bottom of my pan. You don't really want it like scorching hot. You just want it enough to kind of cook in the garlic. And then once we're done with this right here, like I said, we're just going to set this to the side, let it do it. It'll do its thing, and actually it will help because the garlic is going to like work through it as it's sitting there. And then we're going to move on to our cube steak. Now, I have 4 pieces of cube steak here. That's really all you're going to need if you're like 2 people. I have some buttermilk, I have an egg, I have some all-purpose flour, salt and pepper, and a little bit of cornstarch. And that really is all we're going to use to make the cube steak. And this is really easy to do. There's just not much to it that is all that hard. But you're going to have to break open that egg and mix it into the buttermilk before you start dipping in the beef. So we're going to go ahead and break that up, and then use a fork to scramble it just to kind of break open that yolk and get it all mixed through. Because we want to do this before you put it into the buttermilk, because once it's in the buttermilk, it's a little hard to deal with. Now mind you, I have about 1.5 cups of buttermilk here, and I'm adding that large egg into it. And then I'm going to mix that up in there, and then the color of the buttermilk is going to change a little bit. It's going to get kind of yellowish, and once you see that it's kind of even, that means you pretty much got this completely distributed, and that's what you're looking for. So I have on my plate here at least 1 cup of flour. I'm adding to this about 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, and I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And then once this is all on here, I'm going to mix this up so all of the seasoning gets mixed through and the cornstarch gets mixed through before we even try dipping anything into this. So once that is completely mixed through the whole thing, we're going to bring in our cube steak. And what we're going to do basically is just take the cube steak, get it in there, dip it, get it really wet, bring it over, press it into the flour mix, and really get it coated, because you want a good even coating on the outside of this. So flip it back and forth as you have to, make sure that it's all coated and ready, and then move on to the next piece. And then we're going to do this for all 4 pieces that I had. And as you can see, it's really easy to get this flour to stick to it once it's been in the buttermilk. It just really goes on really well. And once we get through with this, we're going to go ahead and put enough oil in the bottom of a pan to coat it. And we have this like on a medium to high heat because we want these to really cook. Now, when you bring your cube steak into this, you're going to put them in there, but give them a little space in between so that way they're not like overlapping or anything like that. And we're going to cook these like between 4 to 5 minutes on each side. We're going for that golden brown outside of it. And you're going to turn it as you're cooking it, and you might turn it once or twice during the time this is doing. I usually do it a couple times, but while it's cooking, you just want to check it from time to time to make sure it's not sticking by moving it back and forth, because it will stick, especially if your pan is not a nonstick pan. But we're just going to go ahead and like cook this, turn it as you need, like, you know, like I said, 4 to 5 minutes, check it, flip it until it looks as if it's completely cooked. And once it's cooked, we're going to remove this from the pan and set it to the side, because we're going to use the same pan to make gravy in. So as you can see with mine, I flipped it another time, and this is what mine ended up looking like. This is what you're going for. You want that good looking outside of it where it's really kind of brown and it's really cooked. We're going to set that to the side, and we're going to come in to make our gravy. Now for the gravy, you're going to need at least 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Those are optional. You don't have to put them in because there's already salt and pepper in this steak. And then 1.5 cups of milk. And that's really all you're going to need to do this. So it's really not a hard thing. So take the flour that you have, put about half of it in, and mix it into the droppings that are still in the pan and the grease. And just go ahead and mix those up. And it's okay that there's bits in there from before, because that's going to flavor your gravy. So stir it around, then bring in the rest of your flour. Keep mixing it through until you're going to leave this in there for like 2 minutes, because you want it to cook down that taste of the flour. You don't want that in there in the gravy because it's going to taste kind of rough. And then we're going to bring in our milk, and we're going to put it in about like 1/4 cup at a time or so. And like I said, you have about 1.5 cups. Don't put it all in at once, because you want to keep mixing this until it gets the consistency you want. You want to put too much milk in there, because then you'll make it too runny. Now, when you get to the end and you put in all your milk, if it is not exactly what you want and it's still a little too dry, you can still add a little bit more milk to it. And just cook this up for a few minutes until it's completely mixed through. And then we're going to take this, and when we serve, we're going to put this over top the steak like I did here, and with my green beans. And I got to tell you, this was so good, and it's so worth the effort to make this meal. It's really a pleaser. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.